This video will be on the Ram Promaster City. This is a 2021 and I'll be doing an oil change. Should be pretty simple. When I bought the van, I'd never looked in the glove box, but the dealer manual wasn't in there. But I think from looking online, this takes 5.5 quarts of oil. It seemed like a lot to me, but it does have an oil cooler on it, which probably holds an extra quart of oil. Most of the time a 4-cylinder is 4.5, 5 quarts of oil at max. Now this is a 2.4 liter engine. Makes it easy. It says 0W20 on the engine oil. Now the old days when I was growing up, long time ago, used to be a sticker on the vehicle, kind of like this one. It actually told you the oil capacity and everything like that. So I've got my vehicle supported. I found a solid spot on the frame to jack it up, and then I used a jack stand on the metal here on the frame to keep the vehicle from falling in case the jack fails. Don't have to do that. You can use jack stands, ramps, all the way, but I would definitely suggest securing your vehicle. Don't just trust your hydraulic jack to keep it from falling on you. There's not a lot of space under this vehicle. If it does fall, it's going to crush you. So make sure you have a container big enough to hold at least 5.5 quarts of oil, if not 6. I have a couple rags handy, and nitro gloves are optional if you want to keep your hands safe and probably keep from absorbing some of the chemicals that are in there. A couple nitro gloves probably won't hurt you. I'm gonna Michael Jackson that with one glove since I'm trying to run a camera and this, but we'll see how it goes with one glove. So the oil filter is right here in the front of the vehicle. The oil plug is on the back there. Already broke it loose, but it's a 13 millimeter. It's hard to do this with your camera being in the way. Basically, when you pull this plug out, the oil is going to squirt backwards. So make sure your pan's far enough back that it'll catch the oil. I try to push in on the plug while I'm pulling it out, because once it starts to drip like that, you know it's about ready. And again, that's probably 6 or 8 inches behind where the pan is. So make sure you leave enough room, you don't just cover your floor with oil. I'm going to let that drain all the way. Once that's done draining, I'm going to come back, take the filter off. I'm going to keep an eye on this. Again, this was 5.5 quarts of oil, so that's a lot of oil. As it slows down, it's going to start dripping like it is there. I'm going to push the pan back to where it'll just drip into the pan and not on my floor. And again, if you haven't changed oil before, it takes a little bit of practice to get it right, but once you get it right, you'll figure it out. Worst case is you're cleaning up oil off your garage floor. All right, so my oil has slowed down to a trickle or a drip. So I'm going to put the oil plug back in. Before I do, I want to clean it up really good with my towel, rag, put it in your sink. Check the gasket, make sure the gasket's not damaged. If the gasket's damaged, replace it. This one has a rubber seal around it. It looks like it's in good shape, so I'm going to put it back in. And you should torque these if you have a torque wrench. The torque settings on most of these drain plugs are 18 to 22 foot-pounds. So it's not super tight. It's tight enough it doesn't fall out, but it's not over tightened to where you can't get it out or you cross thread it and then you have major problems next time you go to change your oil. Changing oil for 3 years. When I was younger, gave me a little bit of practice with that. This may be a little more difficult. I'll probably have to move this once I get this filter loose. Your filter should be hand tight, depending on your grip. So if you got a really good grip, you can put them on by hand. You don't need to do anything else. Now once you get this loose, like I just got it loose, I have to move the camera here so I don't make a mess. Hopefully you can still see it. Yep. Put your pan underneath of it. That way the oil runs down into the pan. If the engine is hot, make sure your arm's not underneath there because it will run down your hand and down your forearm. So I'm just going to get it loose. I'm going to let it drip a little bit. Again, depending on how hot your engine is or how good you are with getting an oil filter off there. You may wait or you may just go for it like I'm going. and drop it. Now again, this one goes straight up to the engine, so it makes more of a mess. Some of the engine oil filters come off the sides, which make it a lot easier. For some reason, they would like to make that one difficult. So that's the old filter off. I'll wait till that drips down a little bit more. I'm going to look at my receiver, which is up in there, the metal part that the oil filter goes to. Wipe it off very good. Make sure it's clean. And then look at your old oil filter and make sure this rubber gasket's on there. That gasket will stick every now and then to the receiver, and if you put the other filter on there, it's called a double gasket, and you will blow oil all over the place. So I'll change my glove, get my new filter ready, and we'll put it back together. Got to move my so I've got my new filter. I'm going to take a quart of oil. I'm going to fill the filter up about 3/4 of the way. Doesn't have to be all the way, doesn't have to be perfect. I just fill it up till it comes out of the hole at the top, like so. And you'll see it's going to bubble, it's going to go down in the filter. It's going to actually get into the filter pieces and absorb some of that. Doesn't have to be perfectly full, but you want some oil in here because you don't want to run your engine with no oil in it dry. First place it picks up is through the oil filter, so if there's no oil in the oil filter, you'll hear some knocking and banging at the beginning. It's not super bad, but again, if you can avoid it, do that at all costs. I just took my finger and rubbed around the seal, so when we put it back up on there, it doesn't stick. So I'm back under my vehicle now. As you can see, I inspected my receiver for the oil filter. Making a mess on my floor for you guys. You don't want to send me $1 to donate to clean up my floor, I'll take it. The new filter just goes up on there. Righty tighty. Spinning on now again, depending on your grip. If you got a good grip, you can put that on as tight as you want by hand and stop. You over tighten it and basically, again, it'll stick. You can't get it off. Pain in the butt, starts breaking. Have to use different tools to get it off there. So I'm just going to leave mine right like it is. So my plug's in the back. I tightened it to about 22 foot-pounds. Filter's in, primed, ready to go. So we'll put the oil on the top of it. We'll check it for leaks and be good to go. So I'm ready to start adding oil. I've got my funnel here. I've got my oops just in case rag around the funnel. I've got another rag here just with my oil cap on it. And based on what I saw come out of there, I'm going to go ahead and put 5 quarts of oil in here. I've got at least 1/4 of a quart in the filter itself, so that'll be 5 1/4 quarts. That'll give me enough oil to start up the engine and check to see if it's actually 5 1/2 quarts or not. And this is actually kind of nice because it pours like water. I remember back in the old days, some of the cars we used 1540, 20W40. It poured like sludge basically in the first place. So I'm going to keep my container to put my old oil in. Just going to set it aside for now. Put the lid on, we'll check the level, start it up. As I'm removing this, I'm going to put the just in case rag and my oil cap back on. It's pretty well spotless down in there, didn't drip a drop. I'll wipe that all off when I get done, but we're nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and check the oil filter, or the oil level. Check the oil filter. Ball. I'm going to go ahead and check the oil level just for pre-start. This is not going to give you an accurate description, or just checking the oil for now. It's right at like almost full. It's not going to give you a perfectly accurate reading because once you start the engine, the filter is going to finish filling up and all the little crevices are going to fill back up with the oil. So So we're gonna run it for a few seconds and then shut it back off, check the oil level again. And just based on what I'm seeing there, it is gonna take the 5.5 quarts of oil. So we'll start the vehicle. Some people rev up the engine. Me personally, don't know that it's necessary. We used to do it just to check pressure. I'll let it run for a second. While I'm doing that, I want to visually look under the vehicle. Check the filter, no drips. Check the plugs, no drips. The drip in the back of the air conditioner. And I'm going to shut it off, and then we'll check the oil level one more time once I get the car level. Then the last thing is I'll show you how to remove the change oil light. Then obviously I got to do some cleaning today. I'm working at the beach, a lot of sand around here. So car's level, checking the oil. I'm at, looks like about 1/4 of a quart low, which is spot on for what I was thinking. A bit more than 1/4. Like I said, the filter, you just kind of guesstimate. I mean, you can look at the side of the bottle and try to figure out exactly what's in there, but I don't know. It's easier to just top it off at the end. And I'll check this again in another probably day, probably check it tomorrow. I'm not going to overfill it. If anything, it may take just a drip more, but I'm almost to the top. The engine oil is cool now also, so you have to remember when the engine oil is hot, it expands. So it doesn't necessarily have to be right at the top when you fill it up, because if it is, you're probably going to end up overfilling your engine. So put it where it's close, get the engine hot, check the oil while it's hot, not while it's cold. Cap back on. And that technically will finish the oil change. So after that, everything's topped off. We want to clear the oil change light now. So basically what you want to do is you want to get in the vehicle, you want to turn the key on, but do not start it. ZipRecruiter.com. Press the gas pedal 3 times all the way to the floor. Turn the key off. And when you turn it back on, it should not give you the oil change light anymore. So that was a 2021 Ram Promaster City. Make sure you take your old oil and filter and dispose of them properly. If you don't have a recycling place around you, if you take it to any oil change place, Jiffy Lube, something like that, they will usually take your used oil for you and dispose of it.